Hi, my name's Jack, and my study was on the importance of social support and connection in recovery from substance use disorders. So, some background on this or my area of focus. I used a couple different newer theories of addiction. One of these is from John Hari. He did a TED Talk in 2015. He says the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection to other people. Gabor Mate in 2021, he's written different books, but in a YouTube video, he argues that early life trauma disrupts attachment to parental figures. So later in life, this opens the door to attach to other substances as opposed to other people for co-regulation and emotion management, things like that. So there have been multiple studies on the role of social support in recovery, like 12-step groups, collegiate recovery centers, group therapy, but there's less studies about some of the more subjective aspects of connection, like perceived closeness to others, having a greater purpose, or community involvement. So that's what I wanted to focus on. Some background for treating substance use disorders and counseling. The therapeutic relationship is the strongest predictive factor that treatment will be effective. And this is compared to treatment modality or intervention. So it really goes to show how important relationships are in connection and recovery from addictions. There's a study in 2019 that looked at Native American youth. And the authors found that multiple dimensions of one's social life, including stronger social support and community involvement, predicted a decrease in substance use behaviors. For the criminal justice population in particular, which is what I focused on, there's a study in 2018 that was a analytic review of cognitive evidence behavioral treatments used in substance abuse recovery. These include cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, and medicated assisted treatment. But there are significantly less interventions on more social um, aspects, such as parenting services and social support. These have been less utilized in the criminal justice population. So for my study, I used a cross-sectional survey. The survey consists of a 20-item non-standardized survey questionnaire that I created. 10 of the items related to substance abuse recovery, and 10 were related to social support and connection. So some of the aspects I looked at in substance abuse recovery were the importance of maintaining abstinence, frequency of current use, confidence in managing cravings or refusal skills, importance of self-care in recovery, and their confidence and commitment to recovery. For social support and connection, I looked at the amount of people in that network, how supportive that network is, how the individual's perception of how close they actually are to that support and the community at large, the amount of time that they spend with others versus being alone, how comfortable they are with being vulnerable with others, meaningful activities, and connection to roles like being a mother or a carpenter or some other thing that gives them their lives meaning and identity. So for the participants, they were all individual counseling clients of mine, and they were referred for treatment to our agency through different legal entities. There were 10 participants in total. Their mean age was 42.7 years old. There's 8 males, 2 females. The majority of them identified with having a substance use disorder at one point or more in their lives. Most of the questionnaires were conducted over the phone, and 4 were over Google Meets, and each participant completed the survey in under 10 minutes. So for analysis, I basically used Spearman's Row for pretty much everything because I was using Likert scales. To test my hypothesis, I took the sum of the substance abuse recovery scores, that category, and compared them to the sum of social support and connection scores. Then I broke this down into subcategories. So as you can see, the substance abuse recovery categories are right here. Social support and connection are right here. And basically I did a Spearman's row analysis for each of these, comparing each recovery subcategory to social support and connection subcategory. So 25 calculations there. And then I broke it down into each of the individual questions and did a Spearman's row analysis there. So that was 100 analysis or calculations. And then looked at the intercorrelations between the questionnaire subcategories. So taking abstinence to current use, abstinence to competence in avoiding relapse, etc., using Spearman row analysis on each of those. So the results I found using the sum score between recovery and social support, the effect size was pretty minimum, and there were non-significant results. Again, taking the subcategories, those 25 calculations, um, those all produce non-significant results as well, unfortunately. So then that's why I used, each of the individual items on the questionnaire, and those showed some significant results. Whether it was due to chance or not, it's hard to say, but abstinence and from their substance of choice was negatively correlated to the number of people in their support system. And similarly, frequency of self-care activities was negatively correlated to the number of people in their support system. Also, abstinence from all substances was negatively correlated with the time the individual spent alone, and the frequency of use was positively correlated with time spent alone. And there's a few others in here, but these were just main areas that I noticed and kind of caught my eye. But yeah, that table for the questions with significant results is on the left there. And then looking at the intercorrelations, between abstinence and current use and confidence in avoiding relapse and current use, those showed significant intercorrelations. But as you can see, question 4, self-care, or not question 4, subcategory 4, these had some of the lowest intercorrelations with other questions on that, on the substance abuse recovery category. And then for social support and connection, connectedness to role and greater purpose, question number 5, showed some pretty significant correlations with closeness to others and tangible social support subcategories. But time spent alone with others seemed to have pretty weak intercorrelations, or excuse me, time spent with others versus self had some of the weaker intercorrelations. So what does this all mean? The hypothesis wasn't supported using, the sum calculations and the subcategory calculations of Spearman's row. They all showed pretty weak relationships, especially in the subcategories. I think the effect size didn't get above 0.55 or so, and none of the calculations showed significant p-values. For the individual items, some showed strong relationships and significant p-values. What's notable here is the number of people in social support system is negatively correlated with more positive aspects of recovery. So this kind of leads me to believe that perhaps smaller but more closely knit social support network is preferable to a more large social support network where there's less trust and more actors, I guess. And then time spent alone, just based on the results here, it could be a predictor variable for frequency of substance use because those are positively correlated. And also from abstinence from all substances, they were negatively correlated. So something to look at it in the future there. Substance abuse recovery subcategories generally showed some intercorrelations on the survey items, higher than at least social support and recovery, but most weren't significant. Self-care obviously was one of the weaker aspects on that category. So reevaluating those questions might be helpful in the future. Some weaknesses of the study: small sample size. 10 people isn't ideal for a survey. Usually you want hundreds of participants in order to get any sort of meaningful results. but that was not the case for this study. I use convenience sampling with my own clients, so that's pretty limited pool right there. Didn't have a lot of time to collect data, and I also have a therapeutic relationship with these clients, so that might have skewed the way they answer some of these questions, because we had it can't just be completely honest and then leave it in the past. Like, we got to have a working relationship going forward with these people. And I also used a non-standardized survey I created, and there wasn't a lot of pilot testing for that. Some future directions I could go into is use the intercorrelation data to start reworking the survey, especially with self-care and substance use. And I think the social support and connection section needs work as far as better defining what are the important aspects of social support and what actually is connection. Um, I think maybe my theory of like what connection was a little misguided, I guess. And then I think assessing trauma in the future would be extremely helpful. Um, Again, repeating the experiment with a greater number of participants, and preferably through a different medium, rather than just my individual clients. People in the criminal justice community who are also in treatment. Those answers would be pretty helpful as well, and getting more data from that population, and also perhaps in the future examining the same research question in a different population. And here are my references. Okay, thanks.